Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Geeknd Live. I am Jamie, and in this week's Alleged Entertainment, I actually have a bumper stream for you ahead of taking a short break from the channel just for a short while, hence the break being short. So let me tell you what's coming up, and I'll tell you more about that break later on. In a change to the usual schedule, we will be starting with the chat batch due to guest availability. He's a bit of a diva, this one, and it won't surprise you to learn that it's Ken Napzok. So we'll be starting with the chat batch in just a couple of moments, looking back at episode 11, Devil's Deal. So if you're avoiding spoilers, as always, you might want to mute or pop off the stream for the next kind of 30 to 40 minutes. But do come back, because we'll have a few of the usual news stories as well. And then that will be followed by a Loki, which we've not talked about, but we are going to talk about tonight. We're going to do a Loki series review with my pals, Alden Diaz and Charlie Ashby as well. So, that is the sacred timeline of this stream. The pause was because I just imagined that you all bowed your heads and said thank you in that moment. You're welcome. So that's all to come, but let's get straight into the chat batch. Let's put up the graphic, and then we know it's officially chat batch time. Oh yes, so please everybody welcome this week's guest. Give a little cyber clap for the author of Why We Love Star Wars. It is Mr. Ken Napzok, who you can't see yet, but you can see now. Hello, Ken.
Hello, Jamie. It's so good to be here. I apologize for being a diva, messing up your schedule, and then delaying the show because all my fancy camera equipment just doesn't work anymore. So now we're on a good old classic webcam. Hey, buddy.
Hey, mate. Yeah, this is the moment where we kind of pretend that we're saying hello for the first time, but in reality, we've been kind of chatting for the last 10 minutes or so. I say kind of. I was trying to, keep you calm as you frantically, pulled out wires. It was like Han and Chewie on the Falcon, wasn't it? There was all sorts of tech stuff going on, of which I contributed nothing to. No. But we've got somewhere.
It's all good. Oh, good.
At least. So yeah, thanks for coming back on the channel. It's the first time, I believe, since the Bad Batch started. So it'd be good to chat about that. And I know you've got a busy day. I was about to say busy evening. Your day has just begun. You're going to do some Force Center recording with Joseph after this, aren't you? So what's been happening with Force Center and Good People Association as well?
Yeah. Force Center is still going strong. Thanks to the community around Force Center that just keeps us going. Good People Association with Josh McCouga, Mark Riley, and Eric Bass of Shinedown. We launched that last year, a production company, but also YouTube brand. That's always a fun adventure, but it's been going good too. So I got a show in there this afternoon for me called Ken Goes Live, kind of an old style Dick Cavett meets mid-90s Letterman chat show, we hope, at least on paper. That's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, well, people can go and find out whether it lives up to that description later on. I have linked to Good People Association, the YouTube channel, also the Force Center, a link tree as well. So if anyone is meeting Ken for the first time, obviously you might want to, hang about before you go committing by clicking on a link, check out that you really do like the cut of his jib first, but you probably will. So it probably is safe to click on those links. Right, before we get into the Bad Batch, this is your final warning. If you are trying to avoid spoilers, just do a quick couple of hellos. Glenn, the Geeky Hippie, is here. Hello, Glenn. Hello to Star Wars Meg, as well as Jane Flakes, as well as hello to David, and then goodbye to David, who just popped in to tell us that he's leaving. He has got a job to do, basically. Fair enough, David. We'll see you in the future, because I think you said you're going to be watching on the replay. So hello, future David. Frogger is here as well, all the way from Germany. Welcome. That's what my uncle... I don't know why you're telling us what your uncle used to say or what your uncle did used to say, but I probably put up the wrong message. But hello to Frogger, as well as Sidge. Oi to you, Sidge. And if I've missed anyone out, I apologize. Oh, here we go. FKR as well is here. Hello to you. Scrolling down, David McKay as well is here saying, Ken, I think David's excited to see you, Ken.
Yeah, David's great. David's a regular around my Lego Twitch streams too, checking in all the time. So, hey, friends and new friends.
Yeah, and James Campbell here, who it suggests is an old friend from the Collider days, baby, he has said there. We also have Anders, hello Anders, and Irish Tom is here, and David Milano. Yeah, one David enters as another leaves. David Milano is in the house. So that is good to see you all here. We'll now get into some chat batch. As always, we'll pop over to the chat again. This is a discussion between us all. So, yeah, like I mentioned before, Ken, it is the first time we've talked during the Bad Batch run. I know you're covering it on the Force Center, so this is certainly not the first time you've talked about it, I'm sure. But overall, so far, how's the series been leaving you feeling?
Oh man, I've been loving the Bad Batch, which I didn't think I wasn't going to love it, but it wasn't high on my list. Waiting for Kenobi, Andor. I'm really stoked about the Acolyte coming. I love what Leslie Headland says about Star Wars. I'm excited to see what she can do. The Bad Batch, I was like, okay, yeah, I like those episodes. We'll see. And it's just done a great job just delivering on big themes and important lessons every week with some good old fashioned classic Star Wars action. You know, it sounds like a buzz phrase, right? A classic Star Wars action, but it's true. It's been a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, no, it has. And is that your top 3 wish list? I think you just gave us Kenobi, then Andor, and the Acolyte.
Yeah. Kenobi, Andor, I just love that time period. I always say I love the Star Wars. The 19 years between episode 3 and 4 is like my favorite time Star Wars to explore. So both those shows will be in the middle of that. And Acolyte's just the most, we know the least of it, maybe in terms of all the new series. I was going to say Lando, but we can at least expect it's Lando. We know Lando, and I'm looking forward to that too. But Acolyte, just the dark kind of witchy vibes and not knowing what's coming. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I don't think that's top of my fanboy list, but it's definitely top of my list of intrigue, I guess. As you said, it's the one we know the least about. So what are we talking about? Devil's Deal. That's episode 11, isn't it? So this episode took us into the Twilight Zone of Ryloth. And do you know the funny thing with this episode, the intro? Because it started with another imperial takeover of a planet, and I genuinely thought I'd hit last week's episode for a few moments, and I genuinely went back to the menu to check, and then realized I'm just stupid. It's a different planet, different creatures involved, even different politicians, of which one was quite familiar to the eyes. Orn Fritar was back briefly. It didn't end well, but then I have a question. I know you look at Twitter probably as much as I do, if not less, and I don't look at Twitter very much these days. But so maybe you're not the best person to ask, but I assumed he was dead. He looked pretty dead to me. It was a good shot. His crosshair, let's be honest. He knows what he's doing. But then I saw on Twitter when I did pop on for one of my sort of cameo appearances, I saw someone saying that no, in terms of canon, he actually survived. He's still alive. Is Orn Fritar dead or alive, Ken? Do you know?
Yeah. In Lords of the Sith by Paul S. Kemp, which is an underrated Star Wars book because it was so long ago. It was 2015, and he's a major character in that story that takes place on Ryloth. So he's supposed to be alive. I believe he is. They're pretty specific with the term attempted assassination, and a lot of people are saying Fritar's hand twitches at the end, but it was a pretty solid shot. And in that moment, I gasped, but I was like, wow, he's dead. And I kind of went, oh, cool. Then I thought, well, I guess, but maybe canon. So we'll see where they end up going with that. But I'll take the attempted assassination as meaning he's still around, just in a lot of pain.
Yeah, it definitely hurt. If it didn't kill him, it definitely hurt him. Deb McKay also on the attempted assassination line. So we'll go with that. Or we have some, canon reshuffling incoming. But what got even more chins wagging in terms of another familiar characters turning up was Hera from Rebels. Although I have to say, and this isn't news to the regulars here, not familiar to me, apart from I've seen her before and I've seen Chopper before. Right. I've seen images of them in clips, but I haven't popped me Rebels cherry yet, Ken. So for me, I didn't feel lost by meeting this character because it's a prequel to her story, and she was quite Skywalker-esque, dreaming of getting off that planet, being a pilot. But I wanted to know from you, Ken, as someone who has seen Rebels, what this did for you. Did it add any missing details, pieces of the hero puzzle for you?
Not in terms of those little tiny micro details, but just the overall feel of where she came from. And by the time Rebels comes around, her father and her, a little strain. You can see where that kind of begins. This is the first time we really got to see her mother. And in Star Wars, I don't think we get to spend as much time with the mothers as perhaps we should. Sometimes it's part of the story and necessary. At other times it's an old trope. And so to actually get to see her mother, and where a lot of who Hera came from, as well as her father. It was nice to kind of see. It was good to see Chopper a little less cranky. Chopper is he's a sassy droid, as we all know. It was fun, but also served a great purpose to the bigger story they're telling in the Bad Batch.
Okay, so I didn't really miss anything, because Frogger here is saying, I bet Jamie wished he had watched Rebels for the last episode of the Bad Batch. It would have been nice to have seen it, I guess, but it wouldn't have changed anything for me by the sounds of it.
Yeah, well, I think all these creators, much like High Republic, is doing this well, where it's super connected, but they can't rely on that in the story too much. They got to have some new people there. So I think this episode did that. But I also think it's probably a little bit more important to know some of the early seasons of Clone Wars. Supply Lines episode when Mace and I'm Gonna Die help the Ryloth, the people of Ryloth there, and to remove the droids, and Gobi and Cham being concerned about when the droids leave and the clones are here, when the clones gonna leave, and here we get to actually see that happen, that dark prediction. So that, I think, is even a little more important to this story than going forward with Rebels.
A couple of words on Orn Free Tar. That's free. Anders suggesting, I like that. Orn Free Tar in the next episode. The attempt on my life has left me scarred and deformed. And that also links into Jane's comment. Will tomorrow's episode see her mom getting murdered, I wonder? Do you think this is a two-part arc?
Yeah, I try not to look ahead to the episode titles anymore. I don't consider those huge spoilers, but I just want to go in. If I'm going to stay up till midnight my time to watch this, an old man like me, I want to go in as blind as possible. But it does look like this is going to continue, which is weird, because we don't really have. This has been very just a serialized, long form story. Bad Batch, for Clone Wars. And even Rebels had those arcs, which moved you around the story and the galaxy. So I'm kind of interested to see a little tighter arc for these episodes.
Yeah, and as Jane said, tomorrow when I do these on a Thursday, I actually tend to not watch them till closer to the Thursday. So for me, it's still generally, there's been some weeks where I've watched it on the Friday itself, but generally they're still pretty fresh in my mind. And then Jane mentions tomorrow. I'm like, oh wow, we are like hours away from the next one. Or you guys are. I'll probably end up waiting till mid next week. We'll see. But enough of my schedule. Speculating on my schedule. So I suppose something as well that has been a bit of a talking point was. It was kind of weird in a way that we didn't really see the Bad Batch much in this episode of the Bad Batch, apart from Crosshair. And this, I'm sure I wasn't the only one here. This was something I didn't actually realize until they showed up, like, halfway through. I was like, oh yeah, those guys. Forgot about them, which is sort of it felt like in a way a trick out of the Clone Wars playbook. What do you think about this? Does it tell you or tell us about this series' place in the wider Star Wars universe? Introducing and or reintroducing and having a bunch of other reoccurring characters, so that the main characters can take a back seat. Do you think Filoni's trying to connect these animated shows, Rebels, Clone Wars, Bad Batch? And if so, do you like that approach, or would you like to see it more separated, maybe standing on its own? 2 feet a little bit more?
Yeah, I'm fine with the Filoni verse, and it sounds like Jennifer Corbett and Brad Brown, the team, are carrying out their own vision of that. I don't mind that at all. It was kind of, I didn't even think about it until when, like you said, the Bad Batch showed up, and it's like, oh, they're kind of a cameo in their own series. but it works because it's setting the tone, it's setting stakes for what they're getting involved with, and the missions that Sid is sending them out. Then I still think there's you could find out that Sid has a little bit more sympathy for the rebellion. She did work with Jedi. You could. Those are plot questions that I often don't worry about, but the big theme of what's happening in the galaxy and the Bad Batch, realizing we're a small part, and we got to start plugging into the bigger story in terms of the Empire's oppression that's already begun. I think that is valuable to me, and it was worth what they did in this episode.
Yeah, and I do like the Bad Batch themselves. I don't think they're weak characters. There's some of them that I would like, and I'm sure we will get some more development for and from. But I don't think me sort of not missing them or even forgetting about them isn't down to them being weak characters. There is as you talked about, there's just a lot of stronger stuff going on around them, bigger stuff.
Yeah, look, even in Rebels, which I know you didn't dive into, but my favorite Rebels moment is Kenobi versus Maul, and that is, it's kind of the side thing that pops up in a way. That's, I'm being very general with that, and it works, and it ties into the bigger picture, it ties in Ezra's story and all that kind of stuff. So I'm definitely going to follow them down a path if they start going this way with Ryloth and what that does to the Bad Batch.
Ken, I've just realised something. It's a bit embarrassing. We're gonna have to start this again. We're gonna have to start the stream again. I've got the wrong graphic on. There we go. The chat batch. That's more like it. Do you mind starting again? Is it okay?
We'll go back to the beginning.
Yeah. Rewind. Don't rewind if you're in the future, because it won't change anything. But now we have the graphic on. We can continue. But yeah, I've been saying each week, really. I've often been. I think the opener, the extra long one, the pilot, whatever you want to call it, I still think that's probably my favorite episode so far, because I am really enjoying the bits around the Bad Batch, sort of the transitioning from Republic to Empire, the Kaminoan kind of stuff that's going on there, the mystery there, and Crosshair. Crosshair is interesting as well, and I think a lot are on the page that we're building up to some kind of redemption with Crosshair. Are you on that page or on a different page?
It sort of, I guess, makes sense. And Star Wars is very much about choices and what your choices lead you to. And sometimes that's redemption and what other people around you, their choices about accepting you back. So we'll see. There's also a part of me that goes, just maybe they lean into it. Crosshair becomes a big bad in a small part of the galaxy before maybe heading off. So yeah, Crosshair, they've done a great job with turning Crosshair, against his will a little bit, but then how much was there and how much was he willing to compromise and all those kind of things. And he just, the secret sauce for a lot of Star Wars things, Crosshair just kind of looks cool as a bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he does, and he sounds cool. He's the for me anyway. So far, he's the most interesting of the batch. Going to read out a couple of comments. Star Wars Meg, Chopper sounds a bit like that robot ringtone on the iPhone, and then Glenn the Geeky Hippie has come back with Chopper sounds like Dave Filoni to me. Lol. Hey. James Campbell. I don't know if it's a statement or a question. Yeah. Ken wants to be brought in cold. True or false?
It's true to every episode. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Star Wars Meg, it's a shame that the Bad Batch is overshadowed by Loki in the ratings. Yeah, it's a different kind of show in terms of the frenzy around it. I think if the Mandalorian was up against Loki, then it would be a different conversation, perhaps.
Yeah, look, as Star Wars fans, we want everything to succeed, right? And I think it's succeeding on a lot of levels. But I have talked to some friends of mine, who don't podcast about Star Wars. They do other things in life. God bless them. Sometimes I wish I could get out of this prison, but they're like, yeah, I haven't watched it yet. I don't know. And then I got one of my friends who goes, I watched the first episode. It's amazing. I was like, yeah. And eventually people rediscover it. I think Disney Plus is doing such good business that they could let this one kind of build and hopefully catch that Clone Wars kind of cult status a little bit later on. But I the subs, who knows how many subscriptions it's bringing in and how they can track those metrics. Loki, MCU is killing it, and that's always going to bring the headlines.
Yeah, I mean, there's people, regulars here, who dive out of the stream when I do the chat batch because they're just not watching it yet, and that's not because they're not Star Wars fans. They are. This channel is predominantly, Star Wars is a big part of this channel. And also, what was I going to say? I don't know, but it was probably going to be very, very, very insightful and interesting, and we'll just never know anymore. No, I think they're just there isn't that same kind of urgency for it, I guess, as there was and will be again for the Mandalorian or the Book of Boba. But most people who I've spoken to who aren't watching it are going to at some point when it suits them, I guess. Tristan Peterson says hello to me and hello to you, Ken.
Love that. Avatar there. Who doesn't see a crying Malakili as themselves sometimes? I'm like that.
We're all like that. I certainly am on most mornings, I would say. Star Wars Meg says, very good point, Jamie. I don't know what I said. I imagine there's been many good points that have left my my mouth in the last 25 minutes or so. James Campbell would like to see a clone uprising on Camino. Could you see that? Would you like to see that, Ken?
There's some going on Camino, right? And them, it looks like the Kaminians are kind of maybe at odds with the Empire already, so we could see that. We know that the Empire eventually, we see Rampart kind of pushing for the cheaper alternative to get enlist non-clones into the army, the Imperial Army. So I think something could go on there. It's just what intrigues me is like who starts seeing that boot of the Empire right away. Who starts kind of wanting to fight against it? Not necessarily in terms of an organized rebellion. We know that comes later, but which system like Pandora kind of. They're cheering it on, right? They're like, yeah, give me those Imperial credits, and Ryloth is no. So we'll see. Camino's kind of directly affected by things right now, so we'll see what they do.
Yeah, and like you said, there's definitely something brewing there. Jane Flake says Crosshair is lost, but Halsey could rebel and join the BB, the Bad Batch. Whilst Meg complimented my point, there are compliments for you, Ken. Frogger says, amazing taste. That scene at the campfire with Kenobi and Maul was simply amazing. David McKay, hashtag save Crosshair. And Glenn would like to say that your days on Jedi Alliance with Maud Garrett are missed, Ken.
Oh, yeah. Marty G. Miss doing that show with her. And gosh, seems like another lifetime ago, right? Prior to even Force Awakens, we didn't know the tidal wave of scorn and everything that was coming our way, and the Star Wars fandom was at peace. But yeah, I miss those days as well. Miss Mott. I haven't seen her in a few years.
You say that about the scorn. However, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of it. But something that surprised me, I was going to do this later after you left, Ken, but I'm going to bring it up now because there's something that surprised me about this when you mention the scorn that followed The Force Awakens, or let's from The Last Jedi onwards in particular. This caught my eye from /film.com, and they did a poll. Danielle Ryan did a poll of Star Wars fans to find out which is, according to Star Wars fans, the worst Star Wars movie. And when you talk about the scorn, as you just did, I this is not my opinion, but I think The Last Jedi would come into your mind when you think about all of the kind of anger towards it from one half of the fan base. But actually, there's some quite surprising results. I mean, the picture gives it away there as to what has had the most votes as the worst Star Wars movie. It is apparently, according to this poll, Attack of the Clones. Here are the numbers. Attack of the Clones got 24.2% of the votes, which is the most. But quite interesting there. Look at the other films. I'll zoom in a little bit on this here. The Last Jedi is not as high up as you would think with all of the noise that goes on the internet. And
Empire just gets a zero. Nothing. No one voted against Empire.
Nobody hates Empire.
Despite every clipping and fan group in the 80s that didn't like that movie. That's funny. Interesting.
I mean, A New Hope surprisingly high there as well.
Yeah,
but
that tracks.
What would you have gone for?
I look, you know me, I don't love to rank Star Wars films because all Star Wars is good Star Wars to me. Because otherwise, why would I hang out here? But I not just on your show, Jamie. It's your hair that brings me, of course. But Attack of Clones, I always would say, it's probably my least favorite. But even in saying that, I absolutely adore the prequels, and Joseph and I spent a lot of time on them. Joseph and I just did about a 2.5 hour episode on Dexter's Diner. That scene is one of my favorite scenes in Star Wars, and has kind of George's thesis statement about the Jedi and the Jedi Order is contained in that scene. His thesis statement for the prequels. So I love that. The Dooku Obi-Wan stuff when Obi-Wan is captured is some of my favorite stuff. It's got some great visuals. I love the stuff in the beginning. I love the Outlander Club. And that's always kind of been my point. It's like, yeah, I could rank it as the worst one. I don't like a lot of 3PO humor and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But then you stop and think about it. The seismic charges is my favorite sound in Star Wars. So that's why I say I love all these things. There's something in every one of these films for me to enjoy because I'm a Star Wars fan.
Yeah, I don't hate. I mean, the question wasn't, which one do you hate the most? I think I worded it that way, but it was which is your least favorite. And Attack of the Clones would be the one I would not really choose to rewatch. It's probably the one I would rewatch the least. Therefore, it's the one I enjoy the least. But yeah, I don't hate any Star Wars films, to be honest. The Phantom Menace, I was, just about young enough to appreciate some of the, the childish humor and what have you. Looking back at it now, I probably enjoyed a film less than I used to as a kid. However, I do not hate that film. And even if I did hate the film itself, I will always remember everything that happened around it because, that was such a big moment in so many people's lives, and such a unique build up to the release of that film, which we don't get anymore because back then, obviously we didn't have the constant leaks on social media, the various teaser clips that get put out online, the instant drop of the trailer. People had to go to the theater to watch the trailer, didn't they?
Yeah, it was like the movie poster, the lobby poster was like the first time I really saw, young Anakin. Stuff was coming out and rumor stuff, but yeah, right, it was totally different. And it's like those what was those Vanity Fair pictures were our biggest clues as to what was to come.
Yeah. So no, for me, the Star Wars films, yes, you can take them at face value, the film themselves. But for me, there's also, because it's been such a big part of my life, there's other stuff attached to the films, that were going on in my life around the release. And the Phantom Menace was special with all of the unique, well, looking at it back now from this day and age, the unique hype it had. Anyway, didn't really. Oh, I just removed you, Ken, and I didn't mean to. I meant to remove the web page.
That's fair.
Yeah, highlight of the stream.
But that's part of the fun of really being in the Star Wars fandom, and sometimes our dislike of movies or shows or particular scenes or sequences comes from a great point of passion. And I think I always want to make sure we acknowledge that it's not all internet anger. It's sometimes I didn't like that part and I wanted to so much, but it's the stuff around it. That's why Star Wars celebrations are so great. All that stuff kind of fades away. We're just connected by this thing that drove a lot of us through our lives when it was the only thing we had. I grew up in that era in the 80s where I was bullied and pushed down on the ground and choked by a schoolmate because I was the nerd who wore Star Wars shirts, and to have that kind of, it can still be prevalent without a doubt. But, for me to look at, the fact that we're even on a show talking about it, it's part of the journey of being a fan that I love.
Yeah, and also it can actually be quite a pleasant journey. It doesn't have to turn to anger, hate, and we all know the rest because I'm looking in the chat now and everybody, more or less, has their own views on what was the best, what was the worst, and nobody is fighting about it.
Yeah, it's also about entry points. That's a big thing, and the prequels to Clone Wars series. There's going to be conversations where I was 6 when Force Awakens came out, or I was, Forces of Destiny was the first thing. Galaxy of Adventures was the first thing I saw. I love just kind of finding where people got into Star Wars and going from there.
Yeah, so we can disagree. And it's okay to disagree. We don't have to fight over our disagreements, which is always good. We never have fights on this channel. So what were we talking about? What were we here to talk about?
Bad
The
Batch.
Bad Batch.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as we start to wrap up, Ken, I know, like, grading and all that. Marks out of 10. I do that each week on this, and I get everyone in the chat as well to put their scores out of 10 for this episode. You can duck out of it if you wanna. I won't hold it against you, but if you want to give me a score out of 10, but also, go a bit broader as well. Just generally, how would you sum up your viewing experience of episode 11?
Episode 11 out of 10. 10's the thing you're saying?
10's the thing. 10's the thing. Yeah.
I will say like a 8.9 to 9.1. I'm going to add some points there. Really love this episode. I think this episode is going to have more emotional resonance and just more power to it. We're going to like it a little bit more when the whole story is told. You go back to this one and kind of roam around with in the story a little bit more. So I'll put it at 9. I'll just say that, Jamie. 9.
Have you been averaging at 9s, would you say? For this
yeah
series?
yeah but see, it's coming off some of my favorite episodes of the last few, so that I'd put up there in that 9 range. Yeah, some have dropped down to 8s and 7.5s, but again, anytime I sit down and that Disney Plus Star Wars logo with all the faces comes on, and I get excited, man. It's a new Star Wars story here in front of me.
New Star Wars is good Star Wars. All Star Wars is good Star Wars. Jess Black says, hi, Ken and Jamie. Hope you're both well. Hope you are well, Jess. Get your marks out of 10, your scores out of 10 in the chat, and I'm going to come over and read them out, and then we will wrap up the chat batch. My mark score out of 10 is going to be for episode 11, Devil's Deal. I'm going to give it a 7. 7 out of 10.
That's great. Good.
Ken, I know you watch these streams week in, week out religiously. You don't miss a second, so you will know that's quite high for me. That's quite high for me.
Good, great. See, I'm here to help spread the joy.
Because I say this every week. 5 is average. 5 is average, and there's nothing wrong with average. I've been average. I've dipped below as well most of my life.
Oh,
5 is average.
I'm a 3 out of 10. That's a 300 better. That'll put you in the Hall of Fame.
So for me, a 7's been pretty. I think that's very good, and that's I think the highest I've gone is 7.5 so far. So anyway, it's a 9 from Ken. It's a 7 from me. It is an 8 out of 10 from Jane Flakes with an extra half. 8.5 out of 10 for Chopper and Hera, or was it a 7.5? And then you bumped it up to 8 for Chopper and Hera's involvement. Oh no, so it was an 8.5 from Jane, 7.8 from Glenn the Geeky Hippie, a 6 from Meg, and we have a 9 from GS. I love Vanessa Marshall and respect her work in this. Phil Hawkins, hello Phil, who was on last week. I saw your message earlier saying about the fact I had the wrong graphic on for the entire stream last week. Thank you for pointing that out a week later, Phil. But you are giving it an 8. I loved seeing the Rebels tie in, and it was a good story. Shame the batch were in it so little. They'll be back. They'll be back, I'm sure. They kind of have to be, don't they? 7.5 from FKR, 7.5 out of 10. A bit of a slow episode for me. Felt like it ended when it started, but it's a great setup for the next episode, I feel like. And it was a 7 out of 10 from Frogger. It felt very Star Warsy. So pretty high scores overall there.
Yeah, it's good.
From everyone in the chat patch. So there we go. Yeah. Ken, anything you'd like to add? Final thoughts from Ken Napzok.
This is, well, in terms of the Bad Batch, this has just been, I think, a great first season. I love what they're doing with it, and I love that it's a little bit longer. I enjoy a 6-episode series, or Kenobi's going to be a little shorter. I like that too. This is stretching it, the story's getting to stretch its legs a little bit, and again, I'm someone who I like Wrecker. I like, but coming into this, I was like, the Bad Batch guys, we're okay. Now just with Omega and everything about it, I tune every week. Just tune in every week. Really excited to get more of the Star Wars galaxy at this point in time.
Cool, man. Well, thank you as always for joining us here on the Geekend, and as mentioned, I have linked to Ken in the video description. I think Twitter's there, and the Good People Association on YouTube, and also the Force Center, the various podcast lists. I put the link tree in for the Force Center.
You know how to do it, man. You're an excellent producer.
Thank you very much, Ken. Which you are about to go off and record with Joseph Scrimshaw, aren't you?
Yeah. A little. We're doing last week on Star Wars Ranked. We did our favorite R2D2 moments, and so now we're going to do C3PO, complete the classic droid pair. So that'll be an episode that comes out on Sunday, and then we review Bad Batch, going deep on usually Friday afternoons. We release those episodes our time out here. So. Yeah,
beautiful. And then you're off to the GPA for the live show as well. So, what time can people catch you today?
4:30 Pacific time. A poet and an author Zara Lisbon's on the show, and yeah, just some fun silliness. And if you want to listen to some rock and roll radio, I'm a weekend DJ in Newcastle, Pennsylvania, but everywhere around the world through a website called at hofmradio.com. If you want some old classic rock tunes, Jamie.
I do always. As long as they come from you, Ken. So I will check that out. Assuming I can get it. I mean, it's online. Yeah, I can get it in the UK. Is there not some kind of block thing on? Like some commercial thing?
These days, it's hard to tell. Let me know.
All right. I'll get back to you on that. Ken, thank you very much, as always. Yeah. And I'll catch up with you soon, mates.
Yeah. Tell Charlie hi, and Alden, just say yeah.
You can say hello to him in person quickly. There you go.
Hey, what's up, boys?
They're muted. They're muted.
Okay. All right. Muted. That's good.
There we go. There was the hello. Which I don't think either of them were expecting. They both looked a little bit surprised, like rabbits in the headlights.
Yeah.
Ken, thanks, mate. We'll chat soon.
See you.
Take care. All the best. Cheers. All right. Well, thank you once again to Ken Napzok. And if you are new to Ken's virtual presence, then as mentioned, I have linked to everything. Well, not everything. Ken does a lot. So I've linked to a lot of what he does in the video description. So go and check him out if you haven't already. So I saw there were a lot of comments when I brought up that slash film poll, if you like. And, I can see a lot of you prequel era, a lot of you OG era or something in between. And, there's a lot of differing opinions. But once again, there's no fighting. You see, it can be done. We don't have to fight over this kind of thing. So what we're going to do is, Frogger, I've realized I've had your comment up for a long time. You've been getting an extended bit of promo there. We are going to talk about Loki. We're going to do a little review of the series, which has now finished on Disney Plus. But before we do, one other Star Wars thing I just wanted to bring up, which I didn't earlier, I forgot, but now I've remembered, so I bring it up, is some Mandalorian news. And it's actual news because it comes from the official Star Wars website. So I'm sure you've already seen this, but congratulations to the Mandalorian team, who have received 24 Emmy Award nominations for the second season, which is pretty incredible. So I don't know when the Emmys are. I might ask Alden and Charlie. I'm giving them a heads up now to Google it to let me know when we'll find out whether they win it. But anyway, to be nominated for 24 is amazing and well deserved. I would say that I'm biased because I very much enjoyed The Mandalorian season 2, and also something that we kind of were like wondering about a few weeks ago was whether we would get some behind the scenes action from that scene. Yeah, that scene, the Luke Skywalker scene, and we are. So there's going to be a special Mandalorian gallery episode, the behind the scenes documentary style featurette things on Disney Plus, and that is coming on August 25th, which I'm looking forward to. I've enjoyed all of the galleries so far, and this did seem like a bit of a weird thing to miss out entirely, which is what I think we were talking about the other week. Are we getting something? Surely we have to, and we are, and to make this about me, because that's what I'm here to do. Maybe now I'll get my interview with Max Lloyd Jones. So Max Lloyd Jones was the stand-in for Luke, and obviously they put all of like the dots on him, or the ping pong balls, or what have you, the golf balls, and did their magic in post-production. I talked about this for These Are the Actors You're Looking For. He's the perfect guest, really, and I reached out to his agent a little while ago, and I'm talking actually a long while ago. Made the request, and the agent was very nice, very friendly. They're not all. And he said, yeah, let me look into this. And then came back to me with some sort of copy and pasted thing from Disney saying, no, hold fire. So I was speculating the other week, because this is the closest thing I've ever had to a scoop. Are they going to be releasing something soon with the behind the scenes footage, or are they going to be using him again soon? Both. Well, one's definitely valid. One's definitely true. Maybe the other will be too. Anyway, I'm just going to pop over to the most recent comments. I won't go into the comments about that poll because, it wasn't controversial or anything. I could see I saw in the comments, but I do have 2 guests waiting for our Loki chat. So I don't want to keep them waiting anymore. So I'm just coming up to the most recent comments. Skywalker Sound said, thanks to Ken. If there's anything I've missed that's really important, copy and paste it back in. I'm starting with Skywalker Sound saying, thanks to Ken. And also thanks from Glenn, the Geeky Hippie. So Ken, if you're still listening, I'm sure you're not, but let's just say you are. It's a thanks for coming from Glenn. Ken, the pit boss at Napzok. Ken goes live 12:30 a.m. DST. No, BST. Dave McKay has you baffled me originally, but now I get baffled by BST. I still say GMT. I always forget that we slip into BST for a short while. James Campbell, classic rock, the bee's knees. Yeah, I'm going to check out. I haven't listened to that before. I'm going to go check out Glenn. Glenn, if you've got a radio show, I'm going to go and check out Ken's in the meantime. But if you've got one too, Glenn, I will now have to check it out. Won't I? It'd be awkward and rude if I didn't. Jess Black is off to eat. Fair enough. Eating's important. Now, the last time I had Charlie and Alden on the stream, I hadn't eaten before, and that was a big mistake because I think we ended up talking for 2 days, didn't we, about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Marcus O says hello to you, Marcus O. All right, mate. You're welcome, Jess. Thank you for joining us. Meg, we've got the same mic. This is my new mic. It works. I'm liking it so far. It's got like this app thing that comes with it, so you can do a lot of the kind of processing in advance, which is quite cool, because I wasn't able to do that with the old mic on the stream. The old mic, which is sitting next to me, looking a bit sad now. What else? James Campbell, Jamie, have you seen the TIE Fighter Total Conversion? No. Tell me more. Jane Flakes, this is great news for the Mando team. Well deserved. I concur. And sorry, Charlie and Alden, I'll be with you in a moment. Although, weirdly on time, we said about 1:45, didn't we? Dave McKay, Mandalorian finale is getting its own gallery episode as well. Yeah, we just talked about that. I guess you posted it before, but yeah, it's really cool. I'm really excited about that. Was it August 25th? Glenn, I love The Mandalorian. I just don't think it is Emmy Awards worthy fare. I mean, Star Wars tends to, when it gets nominated, it's more in the kind of technical categories, at least, that it wins in. So out of those, was it 24 nominations? It's not going to win all of them, that's for sure. And I don't think it'll be winning, best series, best drama, or what have you, any best actors. But certainly, I think in some of the technical categories, it could win some. And I think it's Emmy Awards worthy. I think it is. What is, Glenn? What is for you? And James Campbell, future happy birthday for you. August 25th is your birthday. You get the gallery episode as a present. I'm going to read all these comments because that's what I do. I'm sorry, Charlie and Alden. I feel bad if I miss a comment. I can't sleep at night when I miss a comment. Anyone seen Star Wars Theories announcement for episode 2 and 3 of Vader fan films? I, for one, am looking forward to that. I have not seen it. Glenn the Geeky Hippie, 2 weeks from today is my 48th birthday. So let's give you a future happy birthday as well, because I will not be streaming in that week, Glenn. So that reminds me, we're going to have a couple of weeks break from the stream. I'll be back for like the penultimate episode of the Bad Batch. So we'll be doing that on the Friday after the penultimate episode of the Bad Batch. I'm going to Japan on Saturday. And I don't know my work schedule yet. It's going to be quite weird and obviously heavy, and obviously the time zone is a little bit crazy. So unless you're in that part of the world, so I'm taking a bit of a break, but I'm going to be making loads of content in advance and uploading it to the channel and scheduling it. And I'm also going to be logging out of the apps, deleting the apps, just because I get stressed out by all of the algorithm stuff. So I think my head needs a break from that. So you're going to see videos coming from me, and there's some good stuff coming as well. in my humble opinion. So please still leave comments and likes and all that, but I won't be engaging for a little while. And if I do engage, tell me to go away, because that means I've obviously gone. I can't handle going cold turkey, but I'm going to try. So anyway, we'll be back for that penultimate episode. August 15th rings a bell in terms of when that stream would be. But I'll give you more on that near the time. Anyway, I'm gonna have to skip some comments because the guests have been waiting too long. So I am sorry for missing any comments. Let's bring in our guests for some Loki talk. So Loki wrapped on Disney Plus this week, and there is lots to talk about. I can't unmute you though, Alden. Why can't I unmute you? You've muted yourself. That's why. There you are. You're unmuted. Yeah, you've unmuted yourself now. That was a good start.
Self punishment.
It was. Okay, well, we might regret unmuting him. Let's find out. But we are now going to talk Loki here on the Geeknd Live. So Loki wrapped on Disney Plus this week, and we're going to talk about it now with two guests. So we've got Charlie Ashby of the Imperial Senate podcast, amongst other stuff as well, and Alden Diaz of Acto Radio, a Star Wars podcast, also amongst other stuff. And I have linked to that stuff in the video description as well. But before we get into some Loki, briefly tell us about the aforementioned podcast and other stuff. Let's start with the unmuted Alden Diaz.
Yes. First of all, I wore the only British wrestling shirt that I have today.
Hang on, mate.
I could try to fit in.
I've just took that off so we can see a bit more of it now.
It's a British. It's a British strong style. It's these guys in England. Is this group of wrestlers that are all, they're kind of like a Peaky Blinders inspired type group in the wrestling scene, and a strong style is a Japanese term. And they started stealing their moves, and they called it British strong style, which I always thought was
that feels very British to steal stuff from
It's what we do.
So so just a quick plug for that. I had to show support for the gentleman. And then Octo Radio, Star Wars interviews. We just had some great interviews come out. Rachel Leishman from the Mary Sue's coming up, and we've been interviewing just people all around the fandom space and stuff. And then also Charlie and I do a show together, which I'll defer to him on, called Batman Returned, because I know that his podcast stuff is ramping up in a new way. I'm also on the One and Done Film Club, another show that I do. And so, you can catch me all over the place.
All over the place, Charlie.
Yeah, the Imperial Senate podcast is a quirky Star Wars podcast that delves into the weird and fantastical of it all. Doesn't take itself too seriously. We're currently doing major shows on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, the Imperial Senate podcast, where we talk every week about the Bad Batch, called the Bad Batches. Loads of fun, loads of delving into what we love about the show, this weird animation style that is just so beautiful to watch every week. But usually we can find us on the podcast feed. We'll be back doing that pretty soon after the show airs. So you can find us on any podcast feed, as opposed with the other stuff that Alden mentioned, Batman Returned. I've got a few other podcasts on the Charlie Ashby Network. You can find that on all Apple Podcasts and everything like that. And we do loads of cool shows. And me and Alden have been going through the Batman films one by one each season. And soon we'll be delving into some fun films that I'm sure he's excited about seeing.
Oh, yeah. We're about to head down the Snyder rabbit hole for the next season. So, yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be, I'm sure everyone will agree, and it'll be very, very, very wholesome.
Absolutely. I'd expect nothing less from you two. Again, I have linked. I mean, it's like internet domination here from you guys, and I have linked to a lot of that stuff in the video description. I can't remember which one of you, but one of you has one of those very useful link tree things, which makes it very easy to put all of your stuff under one kind of internet roof. I think it might be you, Charlie.
Yeah, it's easier.
Thank you, Charlie, for making my life easier in terms of putting the video notes together. Alden, shame on you. But at least you know for next time. You know for next time now.
That's true.
Okay. Everyone in the chat, of course, as always, this is a group discussion. So we're going to talk Loki now. Let us know what you thought of the series in general, because it's over. And I suppose as it's freshest in our heads, let's get straight to the finale. We'll maybe go backwards as well at some point in the next however long it might be. Was it the finale you hoped for? And also, how do you think it impacts the MCU going forward? Who shall we start with here?
All right, set your clocks, folks. We're gonna do
Let's give the first half an hour to
our
Alden.
absolute greatest effort. Will go into brevity today. I promise.
Because I haven't eaten. I haven't eaten.
I think I speak for Charlie and myself because we always text each other in the wee hours, at least for me, about these shows. I gotta say, this was almost everything I expected in terms of the content. Like, the surprise was something that we discussed, but the execution, A, making it a cliffhanger, B, introducing this major villain without introducing him, is one of the most clever introductions of someone ever, because you give us the actor, you give us the backstory, you show us a performance, maybe not the performance, and you have this villain say, oh, no, I'm the way better version. Now you're doomed. That is, I think, a great way to set up stakes. So it was it played more like a play than any of the other episodes. It was mostly in his office, and it was understated, and I loved it.
And what about in terms of how it opens things up moving forward? Well, I mean, there's going to be a season 2, but I mean, generally with the MCU, what kind of impact do you think this series is going to have on it?
Oh man, I'll throw it to Charlie on this one, just because I don't want to go off on too much of a ramble. But I mean, everything. I mean, with the exception of Shang-Chi and Hawkeye, everything, at least movie-wise, on the slate feels like it could fall in line with this. I mean, what if right around the corner, Charlie? I don't know if you want to talk about Spider-Man and Strange as well.
I mean, yeah, the title says it all. Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness. It's everything is opened up here. This is what I find so inspiring and really fun about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is that they, as a company, they had to basically deal with what they had. In the 90s, Marvel Studios gave out most of their characters to other companies, the most popular ones. So that's why the Fantastic Four, X-Men were sent to Fox. It's why Sony owned Spider-Man. It's why I think Universal owned the Hulk.
Universal owns the Hulk, yeah. Both, Hulk and Namor.
Yeah. And like, those characters were the most popular ones, therefore they will go off and get their movies made. And you look back and you think, oh, Marvel Studios, how are we going to make an Iron Man movie? How are we going to make this Captain America movie work? And if you look at it now, you'd think it's ridiculous, but back then, that was the sandbox they had. Now they've sort of kicked the sandbox a little bit, and somehow they've duplicated 50 million sandboxes. They can play with anything they want to. They can do anything they want. Casting is no longer an issue, because you could potentially delve into variants. You could recast the character and it could still be someone else telling those stories. You don't necessarily have to rely on character deaths to be an issue. You could have characters come back in different ways and formats. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the Spider-Man film that's coming out soon is supposedly supposed to tie into some of the classic films that we grew up with, namely the Raimi trilogy and also the Amazing Spider-Man films. So potentially those now somehow recanonized in some ways. I joke with Alden a lot, because one of his favorite films is the 2003 Daredevil movie for some reason.
For some reason.
He's the only one.
There's many reasons, I'm sure. Many valid reasons in all.
But that is something that is now on the table. It's like, we're expecting Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock to show up, but what if Ben Affleck as Matt Murdock shows up and he's like, oh, I'm a variant of your Matt Murdock? That type of stuff's on the table. If in 10 years Robert Downey Jr. is like, you know what, I kind of feel like I got one more in me. You could preserve the Tony Stark death, never cheapen that, and have him be an alternate future, gray-haired, old man Stark type. Like, you could do anything at this point. You essentially made it so that any casting choices that we know almost happened, that could be fun. Like, show us the John Krasinski Captain America, and things like that. It's changed the game.
We've got to help Jane here. She says, I never got into the MCU, and given that I'm nearly 50, I think I'm too old for the MCU now. Never too old for the MCU.
No, I don't think so at all. And I think that if anything, there's so much now that, of course, the pressure is on you to sort of, you feel like you have to do the Iron Man all the way to Loki watch. And you don't really have to do that. I mean, I would just say, think about, we're at the point now where maybe phase one, it was like you kind of had to watch it all to get to Avengers. But once they got into genre, like, do you like the space stuff? Then just watch these. Do you like the political thriller stuff? Then just watch these. And then let's say you're watching Civil War because you like that kind of thriller type vibe. And then you see Vision and you're like, oh, I kind of like what's going on with him. Then you can veer off into that show. So it's really like a buffet almost at this point.
Yeah, there's many entry points, many starting points. And, for example, I saw Meg asked, as a Star Wars purist, she's new to the MCU, what do I watch? And the Blue Pig Gaming came back with Guardians of the Galaxy, for example. And
yeah, I'd agree with that.
I feel like, these movies follow Stan Lee's method. It's the Marvel method, which is that with any of these films, they follow the same structure they do with the books, which is that this could be anyone's first time reading this book. You shouldn't have to go into a new Spider-Man comic book and have to know 50 plus years of that character's history. You don't have to go all the way back to Amazing Fantasy 15 to know what's happening in this one book. And that's the same with the films. Like, you could potentially, like, what I think is really good about Disney Plus is they have these Legends videos which sort of delve into the history. So you could actually just, if you had never seen the MCU before, you could just watch Loki and watch the Legends video beforehand. I would say that it probably would enhance your viewing if you had watched the MCU prior to that, but you don't necessarily have to have watched it.
No, it's like me with the Bad Batch, having not seen Rebels.
Exactly.
With Hera, it was fine. It was fine. Adrian Williams says, I was 46 when Iron Man came out. You are never too old for new things. Here. Right. Let's get back onto Loki. We're already doing the massive tangent thing, people. We're already doing it, and I have not eaten. And I didn't eat for 2 days the last time these guys were on a stream with me. Loki then, and you've used the description of variants already. And this is why I love getting you two on to talk about Marvel, because I'm a lot more kind of I don't know, I'm a bit more casual when it comes to the MCU. I love it, and I watch as much as I can. I think I've seen all of it, but I don't have the comic book history to fall back onto or anything like that. And there are some missing kind of gaps for me, and sometimes I have to look things up to kind of fully understand. Maybe we all have to do that. I don't know, but I certainly do. But the series left a few, I think it's fair to say, a few unanswered questions, which is fine. There's going to be a season 2. Even if there wasn't a season 2, it's fine to leave things hanging, in my opinion. But it's fair to say that Loki, and this was alluded to already by one of yous, he went on a bit of a character journey, didn't he? The one we met in episode 7 was a big departure from the I don't want a throne that we had in episode 6. So is this the Loki we're going to have moving forward now, do you think?
I mean, I think it's interesting, right? And I again, like, I feel like Charlie and I are sort of in lockstep on some of these things. So when I talk, just imagine that he is also talking, and vice versa. It's interesting because the challenge with this show, right, was you take a character that had all of their core growth leading up to being murdered by Thanos. And so that's the events of Dark World. That's the events of Ragnarok. And it's a lot to take away. But what they did is that they had this version confront all of that in the form of actual footage. And what that enabled them to do was that those journeys chipped away at in the movies. So him seeing like, oh, my inner good came out, just made his inner good come out. You're not that guy because we've shown you that you prove that you're not that guy. So it's almost like we got to the same point Z, but took a completely different path. And with the introduction, of course, of Sylvie, of classic Loki. Would be remiss if I didn't mention Alligator Loki, Boastful Loki, President Loki. All of these characters just highlighted and underlined a different facet. So I think that in season 2, it's going to be interesting to see sort of how much further into the heroism he goes. Because Loki Prime, Loki proper, sacred timeline Loki, he died a hero, but he didn't really get to live a hero. This Loki seems like he's going to actually get to suit up and do hero stuff for a bit.
To jump in, I on the show I do called Ponder Vision, we talked a lot about this in the recent episode where the sort of the main timeline Loki that dies in Infinity War, he's kind of like Darth Vader, where he redeems himself, but he doesn't really get to live out that redemption arc. He doesn't get to go further. He doesn't get to fully heal himself. He does save Asgard in the last moments of Ragnarok, and then the next scene that happens in his timeline would be when Thanos invades. So he doesn't really get that chance. This is like if you had Darth Vader die in Return of the Jedi, and then Vader at some point between episode 3 and 4 gets plucked out of the timeline and gets a chance of becoming Anakin Skywalker again. That's the sort of weird way I would phrase it, where this Loki gets to absorb and watch what he went through, but also he gets stuff that he never really had. And I don't think the other Loki ever really had truly, which is, I guess Loki's characterization is that he's always wanted to feel loved, and he wanted to know that he's loved and confirmation of that. And I don't think his family could give that to him all the time. Even his mum, who's one of the key role models in his life, lied to him as a child throughout his life about his parentage.
Which, it should be noted, is a very long childhood. Like, we forget
very long.
It's like 1,500 years, I think, that Thor is in Infinity War. So
that's a casual childhood, isn't it?
So yeah, like he has those moments where he does get to see the fact that his father loved him, his mother loved him, his brother loved him, and he can actually believe those truths. It isn't that he doesn't have to like worry if they're lying or they want something out of him, because he sees that for what it is. And then he gets other people like Mobius who just straight up tells him the truth and is earnest with him. And that earnesty, I feel like, has done a lot to help change his attitude.
It's so true. I think about like episode 1 where he's like, I know you're smart, and Loki's like, okay, yeah. Like he's not used to somebody being upfront and complimentary.
He's so confused about someone being honest and earnest. Like he's not. Mobius has no restrictions there. He straight up tells him, look, I could be using you. Like I am using you, but also you can be good. You can do better than this, and I know that's true. And he proves it, and that's what I think is really interesting about this whole series.
And what I love what you said there. Oh, go ahead, Jamie.
No, go for it, Alden.
I was just going to say that in that lineup, I didn't think of it in this way, but Charlie, you nailed it. Is that the footage is, of course, in order of the movies. So it's Frigga, you're my son, I love you, etc. She dies. Then it's Odin, I love you, my son. He dies. Then it's Thor. I thought the world of you. Loki, when they're in the elevator in Ragnarok. So he gets all those confirmations. What's the last one he doesn't really get? Do you love yourself? And then that becomes the 6 episodes, because he's moved to tears by their love, but it's always that last breakthrough. And then Michael Waldron, the showrunner, had that idea that set the internet on fire. What would a character like this need to get to that point? Literal self-love. You literally should love yourself. And the two of them are just dynamite. I mean, I know she's a more of a British television actress. I had not ever seen Sophia DiMartino before, but now I just want her in everything.
Yeah, now you're going to see a lot more of her, I think. I'm on board with that, and I did enjoy the character journey that we went on with Loki. Something I'm not enjoying so much, though, and you mentioned this earlier, Alden, and I wasn't going to bring it up because, it's a little bit awkward. I was hoping that your, both of you I'm talking to here, your alligator variants were going to turn up for the stream tonight. I wasn't really expecting this.
I know. It's horribly disappointing. He's he's bitey and he's cranky and he's frankly upset that he didn't get cast.
Country, he won't bite me.
I know. I really should have encouraged him to get out of his shell, but maybe classic Alden will show up at some point in the stream, played by a veteran actor or something. Hopefully,
well, Alden's in Florida, so he's basically gay Loki anyway.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I suppose if I'd thought about this, then I would have brought my well-fed Jamie variant to the stream, and then I wouldn't have that that issue after last time. Just for some background, in case anybody wasn't here for our Falcon Winter Soldier stream, I didn't eat before, and I think we talked, like I said earlier, for 2 days or something, and I was very hungry by the end of it. Let's bring in some thoughts from the chat about Loki. Philip Hawkins says, I really like Loki. It's my favorite of the Disney Plus shows so far. It's a quirky uniqueness, much like WandaVision, but it landed the ending a lot better than WandaVision for Phil. And also Brad Snoke, who can't be with us tonight, dropped a note in the Discord and said, Brad Snoke loves Loki. The best MCU series yet, in my opinion. The finale was a little bit of a drag, to be honest, but still 9 out of 10. And I know Brad comes into these series in a kind of similar place to me, a little bit more casual when it comes to Marvel, but I know Brad has been enjoying everything so far on Disney Plus. Everything, I mean, Falcon Winter Soldier did feel a little bit more like your kind of maybe your standard sort of Marvel movie release, Avengers release. But WandaVision and Loki have been so fresh and so unique and quirky as Phil said. I partly because I knew I'd be catching up on this series, I wouldn't be able to watch it, on a weekly basis. I avoided a lot coming into it, and I did with WandaVision too. I avoided a lot of the trailers and early reviews and what have you, even spoiler-free reviews. So I had no kind of expectations of coming into Loki. So you guys, I know you lap up a lot more of it going into it. Did you have expectations for this series coming into it, and how close was it to meeting them?
Yeah, I definitely did, because Michael Waldron has worked on Rick and Morty, which is a fantastic show. Delves a lot into the science fiction and bizarre genres. So I was really hoping for a really weird, quirky show. The trailers did a lot to amp my hype up, but a thing that really, really got my attention was the fact that Michael Waldron, the writer, was pulled off when the project was finished. He was then given the reins to write Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which to me was a big sort of sign of perhaps maybe this is going to be one to look forward to and one to really get excited about. So as soon as that trailer dropped and we saw those elements, I was completely sold. I love the aesthetics of the whole thing, the music, everything was just, very hyped for this one.
Yeah, I was in a similar place too, where I knew that it needed to be, I mean, we use weird as a blanket term. It needed to be weird in very specific ways, because I did have those worries. Thor and the entire Asgard corner of Marvel is my favorite corner of Marvel. Thor is my favorite comic book character. And so like those books mean a lot to me. And I loved the movie versions. And I thought Loki's death was tragic, but solid. I thought that, him dying, trying to stop Thanos was good. And I thought, oh man, like you're going to pull him out of time. Even watching Endgame, I think it was the second time I watched it that I watched it with a more critical eye and thought, is that the back door for the TV show? And then we got quickly confirmation after that it would be that. So I was worried, but that first trailer just immediately set the tone. It was more sci-fi than I thought it would be, because the Thor stuff is usually straddles that sci-fi fantasy sort of space opera line. And this one obviously went full tilt into retro future. It went full tilt into some would say Whovian, at least to a certain degree. I know that Charlie's gonna temper that comparison.
No, I wondered about that, because episode 3, there was a lot of people comparing episode 3 to like a mega budget episode of Doctor Who, which is a little bit mean about modern day Doctor Who.
It's driving
Charlie,
me crazy, Jamie.
you're a Doctor Who fan. What's on your chest right now?
He's
Get it
been
off.
very
Get it off.
very touchy.
Come on, get it off your chest, Charlie.
I just feel
And
like,
Alden started this.
I just feel like a lot of the people saying, "Oh, yeah, this is Doctor Who. This is better than Doctor Who. This is better than modern day Doctor Who." I'm like, well, first of all, I feel like you calm down. Like, yes, there's a lot of influences in the show, and yes, there's Doctor Who's formula in there, and there's the DNA of certain bits, but I don't think it's completely like Doctor Who. Like, people saying this is exactly like Doctor Who. I'm like, I don't think you've watched Doctor Who. Like, yes, there's the time travel and the weird quirky elements. Like when people were saying stuff like, "Oh, they went to Pompeii." See, I'm like, yeah, it's a famous.
Well, Doctor
event.
Who, Stephen Moffat invented Pompeii. I don't know if you knew that.
Exclusive rights to it as well.
Yeah, so like for me personally, I felt like there's a lot more influences in the show than just Doctor Who. Not to say that it isn't like Doctor Who. It's just, but there's so many in it. The show feels much more Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy to me. Like surviving all this weird stuff, the quirky stuff going on, just getting absorbed by all of it.
You're not going to like David Milano's comment.
Look, I think it's a fair, it's a fair comment to have. It's when people like making videos and stuff saying it's better than modern day Doctor Who. I'm like, all right, chillax a little bit. I think.
Yeah, I think that it's like. First of all, I do want to make a self-correction. I said Moffat. I should have said Russell T. It is a Russell T episode. Don't yell at me in the comments. But I
wasn't going to bring it up, but
I know you would have texted me later. But the whole comparison I get, because it's sort of like a.
Thank you, Philip. Sorry.
If anybody, yeah, exactly. I was about to say, like, if somebody pulls out a laser sword in something, what do you immediately think of? It's that type of situation. There's two people. They happen to be a man and a woman walking around on a planet that is imminent disaster, and there's a lot of the trappings, which I understand as broad strokes. People would jump to that, but it's a blending of the flavor. I saw Doctor Who in there. I saw Hitchhiker in there. I saw Firefly in there, especially in that episode. I mean, there's a literal train job set up and poor people being left out on there. So you can make the argument for Firefly and Star Trek, and so I think it was a little bit of everything. But the key difference is that our heroes and Loki and Sylvie are nothing like the Doctor. And so they're just not similar characters outside of being long-lived. That said, do I think that it would be cool to see, Doctor Who with this level of money? Sure. But like, that's not something that I'm going to hold against Doctor Who. They're not trying to be the same thing.
That's antithetical to everything that's Doctor Who. If there's no tinfoil,
what have you started, Alden?
Then what are we doing here?
But you've got Phil. You've got Phil. Phil's got your back. Phil does a lot of Doctor Who content on YouTube. Philip Hawkins, and he's on your back. I'm self-confessed not a Doctor Who fan. So I, apart from the fact there's time travel, that's the only kind of connection I made with it. But I, as Alden mentioned, Hitchhikers as well. I can certainly see that little element of a vibe in there as well, amongst also other elements too.
Also, Marvel Comics, like
that's a big one.
It's a super time. I mean, what this show and the idea of variance and everything that it unlocks by the end with Sylvie killing He Who Remains, it's pushed it. Because people always say the MCU, what Kevin Feige did was make comic books on screen. And that's been largely a fair thing to say. It's never been more true than right now. Because comic book readers are used to, if they were reading the Jamie Stangroom comic book, they'd say, oh, Jamie looks completely different this week. Because a different artist started drawing the book. Now we have literally taken that phenomenon and thrown it on screen. Where it's like, maybe one day Tom Hiddleston doesn't want to play Loki anymore. Oh, well, we'll go over here. And this time it's, it's the next up and coming English actor that is going to take over the role or whatever.
Yeah, Loki could be the new Bond.
Well, I wonder what the odds are on that. I think everyone's pretty much been linked with Bond, as the new Bond. So why not throw Loki into the mix? Hiddleston must have been linked at one point, surely. Who hasn't?
Yeah, Hiddleston, I think, was in the last crop of rumors for a little bit.
The Night Manager, right?
Going to say hello to Chrome Dome and also Stanley Otti as well. Now, I wasn't going to get into this because I've seen a little bit. I've seen a little bit of the kind of internet kind of discourse between around certain things that have happened in this series, but not too much of it. Partly because keep my distance, and also I was actually keeping my distance from Loki spoilers because I was behind the times. But Glenn has brought this up, so got to ask who approved of the Loki Sylvie kiss. I saw some people freak out negatively against it on Twitter. I didn't freak out in any kind of way, to be honest.
People were freaking out on Twitter.
Unheard of.
I'm just gonna put this out there. I didn't freak out negatively or positively. I was just like, yeah, cool, whatever. I was quite indifferent towards it. But serious question: was there a big freak out on Twitter about it?
There was.
I'd say Twitter. Yes, Twitter. There was a lot of something. Obviously, I don't. This is a weird clarification, but it seems that it needs to be said. Don't harass creators online.
How has that been happening?
That's been happening. I saw it's worse on Tumblr. Of course, there was
basically. I think like a better way to describe it than people saw the scene and freaked out is this: there are people that are always freaking out, and this week it was about the scene. Like, there are people that are always engaging in a negative way, and Loki happened to cross into their purview this week. I'm sure What If will cross in there. I'm sure Boba Fett will cross in there. It's just an immature section of the internet. But there's been a big
there's been a big issue about this term, which I find hilarious, which is self-cessed, as it's been called, which I find hilarious because it doesn't exist. It will never exist.
It's not a thing. It's just the internet. It's not like Game of Thrones where there was actual questionable real life things like incest. But it was it was interesting because what's funny is that this is actually one of the times that I did make a Doctor Who connection, because there's that great moment with two of our wonderful masters, and where what's the line, Charlie, where they for a brief moment it looks like they might kiss.
Yes, John Sim says, "Would it be wrong if we?" And then I think Missy, played by Michelle Gomez, is like, "Yes." And he goes,
"Yeah." And so this show was like, "Would it be wrong if we?" And they were like, "Oh no, we will absolutely."
And like it's the physical representation of the entire emotional plot, which is self-love. It is learning to love yourself, literally. And that's not a bad thing. They're not the same, and that's the thing. They're not the same person, even though they are technically different versions of themselves. They're not the same person, and that's the point. And you shouldn't be like have this weird Victorian moral consternation over if this is good or bad, because it will never happen. Don't worry, you're never going to fall in love with another version of yourself.
It's also just always imagining. It's always imagining characters too. Like, you look at some of our characters that we love. I mentioned Boba Fett. Boba Fett walks into the room. Last time we saw him, and he kills someone. He immediately shoots Bib Fortuna. I'm not watching that and yelling about murder because we wouldn't actually just shoot someone when we walk into a room. I am not a 1,500-year-old trickster god. Maybe if I was, I would be able to make these equivalencies. But it's television. So,
and I think I thought it was a really good plot line and an important lesson for people to learn, is to love yourself and to actually, what person is better to understand your thoughts, your feelings, your worries, your desires, yourself. You got to learn to look after yourself before you look after anyone else. And I feel like,
or Owen Wilson.
Yeah,
to be honest, I just didn't. I didn't have any kind of reaction for it. It just felt natural. It made sense to me, to be honest. So that's why, seeing Glenn's comment now, I was like, oh yeah, that happens. And but at the same time, I'm not surprised there was uproar about it on certain platforms. And Phil Hawkins has said the kiss makes perfect sense for the character as well. But equally, I can understand if people. Some people find all romantic moments a little bit cringe, don't they? And that is fine if that's how you react. Right. So I wondered about the kind of angle of this from your kind of I don't know, your relationship with the Marvel comic books, because you're both, not just fans of the MCU, you're both well-read Marvel comic type people as well. And as I've mentioned before, I do come at this. No. I'm the dork for not being one of you. I come at this again far more casually. Really, I'm straight into the films and the series, and I take them for face value. I don't know what came before on paper, and so therefore I probably have a much easier experience, I suppose. But I know that some people are very passionate about what came before, and often comparisons are made as nitpicking. So for you guys, with your comic book hats on, how did this series land with you guys?
Well, it's sort of one of their signatures at this point. It's something that Charlie and I talked about again a lot in text conversations, which we should just publish one day as a book and get canceled.
No, we should not.
But there's but Marvel has always done a little bit of, we're going to take it and we're not going to throw it out, but we're going to remix it. So, we've had some things that are very faithful, like the first Brana Thor is very faithful in terms of the way it's presented, the way that they all act. Now, where so many Thor and Loki installments in, this Loki is an original storyline. To my knowledge, there hasn't been a Loki and Mobius. And Mobius is a comic book character, but he's vastly different. There hasn't been a Loki, Mobius, Ravonna, Kang thing, to my knowledge. So it's an original story, but with flavors of one book, flavors of another book, taking a couple characters, merging them. So that they've always done a little bit of picking and choosing to create their own thing. And what I loved about Richard E. Grant's classic Loki is that it almost felt like a nod to say to purists, somewhere out there in the multiverse is the pure exactly as it happened in the book. Looks exactly like this. Captain America with the wings, probably. Like, it's out there somewhere, is what I interpreted that as.
Yeah, like, I think we mentioned this before on the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The MCU very early on, and for the majority, and still certain bits, they took a lot, not just from the Marvel comic books, but also there's the Ultimate Universe, which was the initiative that happened in the early noughts, where they made a whole different universe and restarted some of the core characters. So you had Ultimate Spider-Man, which was if Peter Parker was bitten by the spider, but it was 2001. And it was like all modern day stuff, and it was different. The characters were different. They reacted differently. It was more to do with, I guess, like the war on terror, and also those elements of the fears we have nowadays, which is more like genetic mutations and stuff, rather than in the 60s. I don't know if you noticed a lot of the characters have to do with radiation, because funnily enough, in the 60s, people were worried about nuclear bombs. So you have a lot of those elements there. And a lot of the MCU takes from the Ultimate Universe, so more realistic versions of the characters. So Captain America's outfit felt very much like the Ultimates. More realistic. I think Hawkeye's outfit is like straight from the Ultimates from the first Avengers. Yeah. Rather than in the classic Marvel comics, he has the completely purple suit. Scarlet Witch, well, like just a jacket. But now we're seeing them going a bit more, like, we don't really have to worry about people worrying if this is too ridiculous and stuff. We can delve into the main Marvel comics. So you see Scarlet Witch is now this full-on crown and the classic costume. We see Vision. I mean, when Vision was introduced, that was one of the first steps to them going, like, this is a bit more strange, or a bit more weird. And now we've just got all this crazy stuff. We've had an alligator Loki. They introduced Frog in this series, the fourth Frog, which they got Chris Hemsworth to do ADR for, which I think is hilarious.
Saw that, yeah. It's great.
Yeah, so I feel like I love how they're sort of delving a bit more into it. And like Alden said, it's always about picking and choosing the best elements. Because let's be honest, the Marvel Universe has been around for, 70 plus years? Not everything they've done has been amazing in the comics. There's been mistakes. In the comics, Hank Pym hits his wife. They're not going to put that in a Marvel movie. I don't want to see Michael Douglas hit Michelle Pfeiffer,
But what's clever, though, what Marvel's really good at is that they can even lean into negative things like that, put a spin on it, and make it palatable. Because in that first Ant-Man, They knew that Hank Pym has that infamous issue where he does straight up backhand Janet. So they show him being violent, and they show him being unhinged, and they show him with the "don't talk about my wife," and like, so they put enough of those shades of like, this guy's not that great a person in there,
rather than abuse.
Exactly, without leaning all the way into those things. So they've, with Loki being confirmed in this series as bisexual, it's a nod and a lean into some of the Norse myth stuff that they probably could never depict without getting an R, with his various horse and wolf children and all that.
Everyone in the chat, get your scores out of 10 in for Loki season 1, and I'll be coming over to them in a minute. But something that has inspired me to ask this question to Charlie and Alden. I have seen a few comments in the chat from the Blue Pig Gaming and also Philip Hawkins referring to jet skis. So my question is, what are you hoping to see? What questions would you like to be answered in season 2? The obvious is, will Mobius get his jet ski? But what else?
Do you have any immediate predictions there, Charlie?
I mean, can we talk?
It doesn't have to be predictions so much. It can be more aspirations for,
or just
selfish
wants.
We're talking straight up spoilers and stuff, right?
What, do you know stuff?
Well, no, but there's a character in the finale who...
Yeah, I already said his title, but we didn't really talk about where he'd be popping up next.
I mean, I think I don't know if I said spoilers at the start, but we've definitely been covering spoilers for. So I think by now,
we mentioned the kiss and everything.
They were hoping not to be spoiled. Yeah.
Okay, so the character, He Who Remains, is a very famous comic book character called Kang the Conqueror, who will appear in the next Ant-Man film, and we knew that because they announced him as Kang. We were all excited for that character. And then when they introduced, sort of talked about Loki being this time travel show, there were theories and stuff about, could Kang be in the show? Could we see him? There was a few Easter eggs here and there. There's a lot of umming and ahhing over this. And then I think when I saw that character appear, my mind was blown. I was so excited. The character is so interesting. As a comic book character, he's one of the top tier villains. He's probably going to be. He's better than Thanos.
Doom, Thanos, Kang, Galactus are sort of like your Marvel Rushmore. Everyone has their individual villains, but Kang is a all universe villain, Avengers villain. And what's cool, like I alluded to earlier, like Charlie said, we knew who the actor was. We knew he'd be in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which I love that title. And that's not till 2023. So it was like, oh, okay, cool. But introducing He Who Remains here and having him say, yeah, and there's a version of me there are many versions of me that are awful. And then we show the statue at the end and it's like, oh, that's him. This guy was trying in his own weird way to prevent the worst possible future. So in terms of wants, it'd be really cool to see maybe Paul Rudd show up in Loki season 2 and tie in Ant-Man 3. I would love to see Hemsworth show up either to play more Frog Thor, even or a Thor variant. Mobius's jet ski, of course.
That's kind of what I was going to delve into, is the idea of, obviously we're going to see Kang the Conqueror in the future Marvel films and being absolute threat. Probably we might see him in some of the other films before then as well. But what I think is really interesting is we have a really, really incredible actor with Jonathan Majors, who gets to act. His first appearance in the show is a variant of this character that we know in the comics is this evil threat. He acts in such a quirky, fun way, and we know how he's going to be as Kang the Conqueror. And the possibilities with the variants is that you got these incredible actors who get the opportunity to play so many different versions of the same person. Mm-hmm. It must be so much fun for him to do. It's definitely going to be a lot of fun for us to watch. But like Alden said, these shows have the opportunity to have these major actors in the show. I would 100% love to see more versions of characters we already know and love as different versions of themselves, because you could potentially get characters that maybe have passed away, or like in like the characters, and bring them back, or have a nice little twist in that. You could have I don't know, Chris Evans as a weird version of Captain America. You could have, I think what would be fun is to have a version of maybe Anthony Hopkins as Odin.
Yeah. And what's really cool is that it's sort of an inverse approach to Thanos, right? I mean, I don't know how you both felt throughout, going back to 2008. We're not going to talk about the whole buildup, but the Thanos buildup was understated in as much as he only showed up in a couple post-credit scenes, one scene in Guardians, and then he made his debut. He was an in the shadows villain, and then it was fine, I'll do it myself. Whereas Kang can be the opposite, where he's constantly showing up, but we're building to the worst one, where every time we put this guy down, it's like, oh my God, another Kang, another he who must, he who remains. Like it could be a slow build. I would predict, Avengers 5, but I would predict 2 Fantastic Four, because Jamie, I know you're talking about not really reading the Marvel comics that much. When he says, I was a 31st century scientist who cracked the multiverse theory and began to interact with myself, he is the descendant eons from now of Mr. Fantastic. And his name is Nathaniel Richards. So if we introduce Fantastic Four and then all these heroes and Loki and everybody meets them, they could be like, we've been dealing with your great grandson for years now.
Blimey. There's a few comments on Kang. Variant Kang is going to be a badass, I'm sure of it, from Frogger, who added, I already love seeing the funny, cheery version of him on this series, and then getting the badass Conqueror version later. Also, Philip Hawkins says, would love to see different versions of Kang pop up in various movies before the baddest Kang shows up as a big bad in a new Avengers movie.
There's also what's interesting as well is the characters that he's not all bad either. Like we saw like a sort of twisted good version of him in this show. There's also like good versions of him. There's a younger version of him who becomes Iron Lad, right? For the Young Avengers.
The younger Kang leads Young Avengers
in like an Iron Man type armor, and they're introducing another character in the show, Ironheart. And I thought, what if they maybe like blend those characters and make that character maybe a version or a variant of Kang?
Absolutely could. And they've been seeding Young Avengers throughout these shows. Jamie, you watched WandaVision, so you've got her twin boys, and then Isaiah Bradley's grandson, Eli Bradley, in Falcon and Winter Soldier. Kate Bishop in the Hawkeye show is coming up later this year. So they've been slowly planting the seeds, Ant-Man's daughter, to do a teen adventure movie or series of some kind, it seems like. So, yeah.
It's the gift that keeps on giving. But it's
By the
all
way,
about
if anyone can hear my bulldog snoring in the background, she did enjoy Loki. She's just tired.
Alligator. It's an alligator.
It's an alligator, yeah. It's an alligator.
Question from David Milano. Whose ship was that at the beginning of the Infinite Pullback?
That might have been something I missed.
Whose ship was it at the beginning of the Infinite Pullback?
Yeah, I don't know.
At the beginning of the when they zoom through the timeline, I would imagine.
Oh, is that what you were talking about there? Oh, okay, it's David Milano. Yeah, just clarify for a second. You mean in the timeline shot? Because I missed a ship. I know that there was a ship in the wasteland with Eliath, and I believe that was just a generic UFO.
No, there was a Kree ship in the episode 5.
Yeah,
but in the opening, I don't know if they explain which ship it is. I don't know if there's like a specific spaceship. I know that Neil Armstrong's voice is heard, so maybe it is just like.
Well, Kylie Minogue's heard it at one point as well, isn't she?
Kylie Minogue's heard, and I got confirmation about that from the director.
I saw your tweet of that.
What?
I was talking. I just said, "Thank you for making Kylie Minogue canon to the MCU." I'm sure that Kylie Minogue now has a wiki entry on MarvelWiki.com. And I said, I did. I apparently they're big fans of Kylie, and that I said I'm campaigning that they use Better the Devil You Know for season 2 because we need more Kylie Minogue in Disney projects.
It was so wild because when I was listening to that opening, my first thought was this feels like there's a scene, Jamie, in Star Wars Rebels where it was clever because at the time period of that show is by the original trilogy, but there's a Force thing where they put in dialogue from the sequels in Rogue One, and they did all this stuff to sort of imply like all time is happening right now. And so hearing, Vision from WandaVision and, Falcon and Winter Soldier, all that stuff was really cool. But then like hearing the real world stuff too, I was like, wait, what? Like, is this audio from things that I missed? And then Kylie was in there.
Yeah, man. What a time to be alive. Kylie's canon. A couple of comments off the back of Dave Milano in terms of the ship at the beginning of the Infinite Pullback. Dave Milano is making one of the comments. He's added top of the episode just after the logo. Meanwhile, Phil Hawkins has come in saying, wasn't it the ship that kidnapped Peter Quill in opening? There was 80s music playing at the time.
Could be. I'll have a look. I'll have a quick look online as we talk and see.
This is a great service you deliver as always, Charlie. Thank you very much on behalf of Dave Milano, who is clearly troubled by this, and we all are now because we don't have the answer. But Charlie's on the case. Yeah. Meanwhile, as we prepare to wrap up, Alden, whilst Charlie's searching away, do you want to just just give us a sum up of Loki season 1 for you, and if you don't mind, give it a little score out of 10 as well, maybe a big score out of 10.
I will. So Loki season 1 for me is I don't, and I've talked about this with Charlie, I don't put the shows in my ranking because it's a different medium. It's hard to compare them. Same way I wouldn't compare Mandalorian to Force Awakens, but I think that this is absolutely one of my favorite things that they've made. Kevin Feige continues to shock me. The man must not sleep. This for me, I'll say it right now. This for me is a hard 9.5. Basically a 10, only a 9.5 because it's a cliffhanger, and it broke my heart to see that it was a cliffhanger because I could not believe that my favorite show, because WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier were, you can make the argument of more complete for right now. This one cuts in the middle of a revelation that Mobius doesn't remember Loki. So it was the most cliffhanger possibly of anything that Disney's made in recent memory. Since Thanos snapped, that's basically the biggest cliffhanger since then. So I loved every bit of it. And I am hungry for more. Jamie, there is a rumor. Charlie brought this to my attention that they've already filmed season 2 of this show. Have you seen this?
I don't think that's
whoa. Don't distract Charlie. He's busy. He's busy researching. We're waiting for that answer, Charlie.
I've researched.
Okay, all right. Okay, you can discuss the rumor. What? Hang on. You're saying they've already shot season 2? That's the rumor.
There was a rumor, but I don't think that's the case because the writer today said that they're working on the story, so I think that got quashed.
Okay.
Sadly.
There was a misunderstanding then.
Yeah, there was I think Clark Gregg, who plays Agent Coulson in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and also the Marvel films, said that there was 12 episodes in development. So maybe he just knew that they were eventually going to do a season 2, but didn't know how many were in season 1. So, the internet, so fun.
The internet, hey, what a place. So, Charlie, I would like some, please. Dave Milano, more like, would like some information.
My score. The ship.
What about the ship first?
Well, there's no actual, I can't really tell which ship it is. It definitely feels like maybe it's the Quinjet.
Have you failed us? I
haven't failed anyone. There's no clarification. It's just a random ship design. It looks kind of like the Quinjet from Infinity War, but there's nothing distinctive about it. So I don't think it's a major. I think it's just supposed to represent space travel, maybe humanity moving forward in the future, because it's supposed to represent the whole of time, not just what we know. That's my theory.
Okay, that'll have to do, I suppose. But Dave Milano is back. It didn't look like a Ravager ship, at least to me, or a Quinjet.
It looked a little bit, like a mixture. It just looks like a space shuttle design, so I don't think it's that much of a big issue. I don't think it's a major ship.
No, well, let's not downplay it. It's taken up about 20 minutes of this stream, so it clearly is a bigger issue than we're letting on at the moment.
It's the Fantastic Four ship. They've confirmed it. Reed Richards is in the show. The pilot is Invisible Woman. That's why you can't see her.
It's clearly
Cameron.
Din Djarin.
It's Kylie Minogue. She's
Yeah.
flying in the ship.
It's the Doctor.
Oh God.
This is the TARDIS.
There we go. It's confirmed. All right then, Charlie. What's your score out of 10?
10 out of 10 for me.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. I gave it 5 stars on Letterboxd. It's just one of these shows where I think long and hard about giving perfect scores, but for me, the show just hit so much right, so much when I went into the show, I imagined we'd see different versions of Loki. Then we got what we got. It surprised me still. I completely imagined that the villain could potentially be another version of Loki, and I was really hoping that wouldn't be the case because it seemed too predictable to me, and everyone was demanding and saying, of course, this is Loki. It can't be Kang the Conqueror. They're not going to do that. And then we get this whole exposition scene where this amazing actor gets to chew dialogue for over 20 minutes. And I'm just watching it, absorbing it. The music is phenomenal. The cast and crew, you can just tell from the script to the set design. Everyone went into this with so much love and heart and wanting to make this the best thing possible. And I think that all comes across just from everything. Tom Hiddleston produced the show. And not only did he produce the show, he starred in it, but he created a whole sort of Loki school before they started filming for the writers, actors, and he gave like a 90-minute presentation about what it means for this character. Like that's how much he cares about this this character that he's played for so many years. And I think that all comes across in the show. I really enjoyed it. If I were to rank the I agree with that. I think if I were to rank the Marvel shows Disney Plus wise, I would definitely go Loki, WandaVision, and then Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Very good. Well, I will give you my score. First of all, 10 out of 10 for the barking alligator. Never heard an alligator bark like that before.
Which is very impressive.
Yeah, but I'm at the moment at a 7.5 for the series. However, I feel like I will be certainly bumping it up to an 8. I had to binge a big chunk of it to then watch the finale in time for today. So I haven't really had my kind of like, I haven't allowed it all to sort of digest fully yet. So
That's high
I feel
for
like
you,
I'm
though.
going to, that is high for me. And I feel like I'm going to bump it up at least to an 8. But for now, it's a 7.5. Meanwhile, it's an 8.5 from Glenn the Geeky Hippie. Agreement from Frogger. These two have been agreeing quite a lot recently, which is strange if we think back to other moments in history. 8.5 also from Frogger. 8.5 from Gaz Nottingham. Hello to Gaz as well. Also, that's not a score, but Adrian Williams. Hello. Kylie was in Doctor Who. Conspiracy confirmed. 9.5 out of 10 from Phil Hawkins. And that's it in terms of the scores. So I think everybody, at least everybody who's got in touch, we all seem to be in agreement that it was a very enjoyable series. So looking forward to more of that. So thank you once again to Ken Napzok, who joined us earlier for the Bad Batch. Hang on. Not everybody's in agreement. Peter has given it a 0 out of 10, but I don't think you've seen it, Peter. I don't think you've seen it. But you're not into superhero stuff. So maybe you've not seen it, which is fair enough if you've given it a 0.
But
give it a go. Give it a go.
There's a variant of him that gave it 10 out of 10, so it's fine.
That's true. I'm sure there is. So let me also, while I remember as well, because I forgot last week, say thank you to all Patreon members as well. So Charlie and Alden, I have put in, as I mentioned earlier, all of your stuff in the video description, so people can go and check you out on the various platforms, various podcasts. Another score's just come through, 6.9 out of 10 from Star Wars Meg, who is new to the MCU. So that's that's a pretty strong start.
It'll go up the more you watch.
Yeah. What should Meg watch next then? Because Meg needs to go backwards now to catch up on stuff.
After this, I'd say go WandaVision, go Guardians, and go Thor. I just mean
Yeah, I was saying, go
tonally,
back-
like if you like this. Yeah, but yeah.
I'd go back to 4. I think that's a good film to start with.
Yeah, and well, you've given Meg a good, entertaining to-do list there. There are worse to-do lists out there, like my one each day: brush teeth and things like that.
Forget
Jane
to eat.
Flakes, forget to eat. I only put that down when I know I'm doing a stream with Alden Diaz and Charlie Ashby, but I always have to put the brush teeth on down.
7.5
to make
for
sure
brushing
it
teeth.
gets done. Thank you very much. Jane Flakes, we'll look into more Marvel and MCU while the chat patch is off air for a couple of weeks. Yeah, so the Geekend Live will be off air for a couple of weeks. Let me just give that date, if you don't mind hanging on, people. Let me just give that date of when I'll be back for the live streams. It's going to be... Yeah, it's going to be August the 19th. So the Bad Batch episode that comes out on the 13th, we'll be batching about on the 19th. But there will be videos, at least 2 videos every week between now and then. So I'll be here in virtual spirit. Also, one more score, a 9 out of 10 from David Milano. So
Also, just to bring things full circle for you, the Emmys takes place on the 21st of September.
Oh yeah,
there we go. Thank
well,
you. That was
for you.
Oh, yeah, time difference.
It takes place at
1
a.m.
a.m.
in the States.
Who cares about the Americans?
Yeah, it's all about us. It's all about our dates, our times. Hey, we're time traveling. We're time traveling people. It's like that program, Loki. That's a lot like that other program. Doctor Who. Yeah. Okay. I'll end the stream now. I think it's best I end because I've upset Charlie. All right. Thank you, everybody. And go and check out Charlie and Alden. Links in the video description. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out. And like I said, not going anywhere. There will be videos coming on, but I will see you on a stream in a few weeks' time. So take care, everybody, and we will talk soon. Let's wave. Let's all wave. Let's all wave. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye. Keep waving. Keep waving. Keep waving. Haven't clicked end broadcast yet. You got to keep waving till the broadcast ends. Keep waving.